Hello and welcome to this session at the conference. I'm glad you could join us. Today, my colleague Clark Banack and I would like to talk about dark sky tourism with respect to rural development and positive visitor outcomes. And we'd like to use Jasper Dark Sky Festival in Canada as a case study. We'll cover today a little bit about dark skies, light pollution, and their connection to dark sky tourism and their role in rural development. We'll focus on a case study at Jasper, and we'll outline the history and status of the festival and some lessons and challenges that our interviews have shared with us. So as you know, our dark skies are under increasing threat. There are quite variations in quality of dark skies due to various forms of light pollution. And that light pollution restricts the ability for certain areas to provide dark sky tourism opportunities. So many organizations have undertaken efforts to reduce light pollution and protect the darkness, and they take on various education, policy, and technology solutions. And you can see some of those organizations down on the bottom. And they're hard at work to increase the profile and awareness of the need for dark skies. So dark sky tourism is a growing phenomenon, and it's based on relatively unpolluted night skies where people travel to places to enjoy and appreciate these naturally occurring celestial phenomena. So often, dark sky tourism involves volunteers, technology, locations, marketing, and guides, but they can be fairly well organized or very informal. Many types of destinations offer dark sky tourism. Some of them are designated dark sky places, dark sky preserves, urban dark skies, planetaria, observatories, and even space-themed attractions are part of the dark sky tourism phenomena. In addition, there are many dark sky opportunities available that gather people together to observe and appreciate the night sky. Parties, guided tours, presentations, photography, storytelling, and festivals. And that's the focus of our presentation today at the Dark Sky Festival in Jasper. Dark sky tourism is growing tremendously around the world. In northern Canada, Yellowknife has proclaimed itself to be the aurora capital of the world. Indeed, thousands of people travel there every year to observe auroras in the night sky. The western states around the Colorado Plateau have estimated that millions of dollars are coming in as people seek out dark sky tourism opportunities. And as you know, we recently had a total solar eclipse in North America, and folks from around the world will be able to look at this chart to see when the next total solar eclipse might occur in your area. Whatever the case, there will be thousands of people waiting to observe this and spending lots of money in local places where they can see the solar eclipse. Okay, so what does that have to do with rural development? Well, dark skies occur often in remote rural areas with little light pollution. And so there is an opportunity for rural areas to benefit economically from this phenomenon. And these are the same places that are, in some cases, suffering from rural issues of outmigration, lack of economic development. And so some of these smaller areas are seeking benefits from dark sky tourism. So our research sought to explore the Jasper Dark Sky Festival to see how it originated, how it developed over time, learn the lessons from this festival to be shared with others, and to look at visitor outcomes from people who attended that festival. So we spent time in 2022 and 23. We participated in many of the events at the festival, which is an annual festival. We conducted semi-structured interviews with many stakeholders, organizers, managers, participants, and then we also explored what was available online in terms of understanding the history and impacts, and then we conducted some thematic analyses of our results. So let me just put this in context. Jasper town site is located in Jasper National Park, run by the federal government in Canada. It's located in the western province of Alberta, just within the Rocky Mountains. I would be remiss not to mention that Jasper has had a significant impact this year from wildfires, and that will affect the future of this festival. In the town site, which hosts the festival, about 1/3 of the buildings were destroyed this past summer, just a month ago. And so we want to acknowledge that these results will now be looked at in an entirely different context. Nevertheless, let's move on. The Dark Sky Festival occurs each year. You can see that various organizations are involved, the planetaria, the community, volunteers, and so on. And they offer this over the course of 2 to 3 weekends with a variety of activities each day. Let's begin by tracing the origin and evolution of the festival, beginning with its designation in 2010. And the first festival was held to celebrate that nomination as a dark sky preserve. That is a designation from the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. So to prepare for that nomination, we had to gather resources, write the nomination, address all the requirements, and a small group gathered to celebrate that and to offer that very first festival. However, people were very interested, and organizers were keen to expand the festival. So they engaged in the community, schools, Chamber of Commerce, other organizations and businesses, and they considered lots of options and tested those options, and it slowly began to grow. It grew so much that pretty soon there was a lot of excitement from big names in the astronomical world that were willing to come to Jasper to be guest speakers and entertainers. And so some of these names included Bill Nye, the science guy from the United States. On the right-hand image to the left with the red lapel is Chris Hadfield, Canadian astronaut who is commander of the International Space Station, and so on. Many other speakers came to the festival, and so did visitors. Big crowds, up to 5,000 for an event, 10,000 or more attending the festival, and the benefits to the local tourism industry began to accrue. So that was continuing on for a few years. After COVID, which had a slight downturn, of course, the organizers began to reevaluate the festival. They realized they couldn't continue to attract all these big name speakers, and so they had to think about ways that were more sustainable in terms of cost, visitor prices, accommodations, volunteer capacity, and so on. So they settled for smaller crowds, but a broader community connection, school kids, volunteer organizations, some international, and so on, some free events, and lots of science education. So today we're seeing a festival that's offered over 2 or 3 weekends. Involves music and space focus. There's both daytime and nighttime celestial gazing, lots of tours in different forms, connections to Indigenous communities, many speakers, and a variety of entertaining gatherings like trivia nights and planetarium, light show, and so on. It's a spectacular festival, well worth the money. So the festival has evolved over time, and there is a tourism model that explores how destinations change with respect to the number of tourists over time. And we could perhaps apply the Jasper Festival to this in light of the early days of exploration and involvement, strong development. What the next stage will bring, we don't know. Will it be rejuvenated? Will it decline? Will it continue? The wildfires will certainly play a role in this, but so will the organizers and the community members. So as we talked to the stakeholders involved in the festival, they provided some insights that other dark sky tourism locations should know about and be prepared for. First of all, the dark sky designation is very important. It is a way to gain high profile, and people can feel legitimate in attending a dark sky tourism location if it's been designated. Need a lot of infrastructure in terms of hotels and restaurants. If that's an overnight destination, the technology, there's costs involved that need to be dealt with. A lot of volunteers in our case, and how much do you rely on those? Jasper is about a 4-hour car ride from the nearest international airport, so there's a perception of remoteness and challenge of driving there. The weather, this occurs in October of every year, and that's a good time of year for slightly longer nights, still warm weather, and a middle shoulder season for the tourism town of Jasper. And how to balance between science education versus infotainment. Interesting challenge for them. They did mention a lot of lessons that we distilled. We need lots of people to champion the local festival, connecting to a lot of different communities like youth communities, local organizations, external organizations like the Edmonton Astronomical Society, Indigenous groups. All that can strengthen and diversify the offerings. Even getting on the radar of fan groups, the Aurora Watchers, Aurora Chasers, and so on, were very instrumental in getting the word out. And balancing entertainment versus heavy astronomy. The people who come can't just be focused on the technological science side of this tourism events, but they need to be entertainers and good communicators all at the same time. At the same time, we conducted a pilot study of festival visitors wanting to learn about the outcomes of attending this festival. So just for the 2023 festival, we interviewed about 30 respondents. They stayed on average just under 3 days. Most were first-time visitors, so there's lots of potential for renewing the conference with new people coming each time. So we wanted to ask what benefits these visitors got. So they were highly satisfied. 9 out of 10 was the average score. They loved the events. They loved the variety, the attractions, very welcoming environment. They learned a lot, they said. They've learned a lot about the night sky, night animals, other ways of viewing the night sky. They loved the people involved. Very, very positive experiences here. We asked them about attitudes towards night sky. How important is it to protect dark skies? 9.3 out of 10, very strong support for protecting the night sky. When we asked them what you would change after attending the festival, only 42% said yes, they would change something about protecting the night sky. They might reduce the light, they might experience the night, tell other people about it, but surprisingly, 58% said no. Either they're unaware of the possibilities, they're not sure, but potentially interested. Others said it didn't matter or they couldn't take the time. So that's interesting. Positive with respect to satisfaction, learning, and attitudes, but fairly neutral with respect to behavior change. So what can we learn? What can we take away? Well, first of all, dark sky tourism is a really legitimate and growing tool for rural development. Jasper increased during their shoulder season from about 30% hotel occupancy to 80 to 90%. The designations are really important. Lots of lessons and challenges to consider, lots of impacts on visitors and residents. It's worth considering and developing. And we need to think about this in the bigger picture. How do we promote dark sky tourism in the bigger context of the larger tourism industry? How do we promote resource consumptive industry with respect to dark sky protection? What about the changing role of the festival? How is it moving over time? So we want to acknowledge some funding from our university and the Center for Sustainable Rural Communities, our research assistants, and the people that participated in our interviews and surveys. Thank you so much. Please reach out to us afterwards. We'd love to share our results. There are our email addresses. We have published 2 papers from this study, one about the visitor outcomes and one about dark skies in Alberta. And we have another one under review in the Journal of Rural and Community Development. Thanks so much. Look forward to your questions.